who do you become in the process of achieving that individual outcome? How I change, how I evolve, how it makes me a better man, and how I have to become better every single day and every single month in order to make those things a reality. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Kettlebell Guys podcast. My name is Coach Grant, and I'll be your host today. Now, today, what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about a very simple idea, a very simple concept, and I wanted to specifically say this as these are things that I care about, that I believe are important in my life. And what I specifically did not want to do is I did not want to make this podcast as a 3 things that you should care about or that every man should care about, because I think it can be pretty relative, for every guy out there. And I think it's all dependent on your mindset, your beliefs, your goals, what you believe is important to you. And so whenever I try to share stuff like this, I always try to preface it with the idea that this is my 2 cents. This is what I believe in. And so whether you align with that or not, it's kind of irrelevant. But what I wanted to share today was the 3 big things in my life that I believe are part of like my core foundation. 3 things that I believe continue to push me forward and continue to make me better as a human being. And these are, without a doubt, these are not all encompassing. This is not everything, but I do think that these 3 cover a lot of bases. And I think that as I get into it, potentially you might start to see kind of what I see in terms of how these impact my life in a positive way. So, we'll title this the 3 things that help create the foundation of who I am. And number 1 is being strong. Like number 1 is, and I'll take it to a different level of not just being strong. I'll take it to a level of number 1 is the idea of always having a way to physically challenge myself on a weekly basis. There will not be a week that goes by, or I'll say there will be very few and far between weeks for the rest of my life that I do not do something that physically challenges me. And there are many reasons for that. Obviously, the easy ones being I care about my body composition. I care about, I want to look a certain way, whether you believe that vanity is a thing or not. It is a thing. Like people, it's the first thing that someone judges you on is the way that you look and the way that they will create a story about you before you ever even say a word based on how you look. That's just the world that we live in. And so I like to control that. I like to control the way that my body looks. And also I like to control the way that I feel, because I can tell you this, when I'm training consistently and I'm challenging myself consistently and I'm working out consistently and I'm pushing myself, I always feel a whole hell of a lot better. The workouts, they might not feel the best. I might deal with a lot of lack of motivation before and during the workouts in terms of just, not wanting to push myself into those places. With that being said, I always, after the fact, feel incredible. And I always, the day after, feel amazing because of pushing myself the day before. And I also think there's the physical benefits for me of controlling body composition. It makes my body feel great, makes my joints feel great. I believe that I'm taking care of my body in a way where, when I'm in my 40s, my 50s, my 60s, my 70s, I'm going to be able to, barring something outside of my control, be able to continue to do everything that I want to do in my life, anything and everything that I want to do in my life physically. I believe that I'm setting myself up now for success in the future. But I think there's also the thought process of what it does for me mentally and what it does for me emotionally. I know that I'm a better human. Like I'm a better man. I can handle situations better. I can handle stress better. I can handle the stress of, running an incredibly fast growing business that has 600 plus clients in it. There's a little bit of stress that comes along with that on a day by day, week by week basis. And I believe that challenging myself physically every single week puts me in a place where it makes it easier for me to handle that stress. It makes me a better partner. It makes me a better friend. It allows me to show up for the relationships in my life in a much more calm, confident state. And so I think there's a benefit from a mental and emotional standpoint that we sometimes almost forget about and we don't think about. And I just think about now, if I were to look at, if I went a whole month and I didn't work out, dude, I would be the grouchiest, most stressed out. I'd feel terrible. My body would feel terrible. And I would be in a really terrible place mentally and emotionally if I just went 30 days without working out. And so I know that I'm at my foundation, at my core, I need to be challenging myself physically because of the benefits that I can see for my entire life. I couldn't imagine my life without challenging myself physically every week. So that's number 1, is I always need a way to do that. And I think the outcome for that is that I get strong. And I believe that I believe that being strong allows you to handle everything else that life throws at you in a much easier fashion. So it's not just like hopping on a Peloton bike. I would not get the same benefit of hopping on a Peloton bike or going for runs 3 days a week. I don't view that as the same way. I think that getting stronger, using heavier bells, being able to do exercises with heavier bells, the process of getting stronger, going from one bell to another, not only shows me that, like, number one, produces a lot of confidence, makes me feel great about myself, but produces a lot of confidence in my ability to be able to handle everything else that life's going to throw at me, because I can handle the stress that I can put myself through when I challenge myself physically every week. So that's number one, is I believe that number one, I should be strong. Subtext of that is that I need to challenge myself physically on a week in, week out basis. So that's number one. Now, number two is having a purpose. And I think that that's different for every guy. And I think that especially, so I'm not a father. Pretty much 90% of my team, they are fathers. My business partner's a father. Most of my coaches are fathers. And I think that for a lot of guys, that becomes a pretty big driving purpose for most men. And we definitely talk about it in KT of like, dude, one of the reasons why you want to take care of yourself, want to take care of your health is not just because of you. It's like, it's much, much more about what kind of reality do you want to create for you and your kids? What kind of what kind of health habits do you want to give the opportunity for your kids to adopt from watching you? And so I think that, for most men, for a lot of men, that becomes a big driving purpose for them. But I think on top of that too, we as men, we carry a lot of purpose in our careers and what we are doing with our life, like what we are actually choosing to spend our time and our energy on to create and to contribute in this lifetime. And so for me, a lot of my purpose right now, until, a day where, if I ever become a father, that would probably be added to the list, right? But for me, the biggest purpose for me is what we're doing inside of Kettlebell Transformation. It is the belief that we are truly helping men all over the world make the decision to put their health first and then experience the reality and the benefits and the complete and utter change in how you experience your life on a day-to-day basis. That happens when you decide to put your health first. That happens when you are consistently working out, when you are eating healthy, when you actually take control of your body composition, when you are setting the example for your family and your kids, when you are controlling your stress, when you are living the life of someone who is a healthy, strong adult. And I believe, like, my purpose is very much our purpose here at KT, which is our purpose is to help as many men as possible fall in love with kettlebells and take control of their health. It is as simple as it gets, but it has been that's been at the core of my purpose since we owned Chicago Primal Gym, since we spent all day, every day from 5 a.m. until 8:30, 9 p.m. inside of the gym. And it's always been the core purpose of me is to help people unlock that level of confidence, that level of, I would just call it peace of mind. Because I think when you are healthy and you are strong and you are doing those things on a consistent basis, then you have this peace of mind that area of your life is figured out. And, they always say that, like, a healthy man can have 1,000 problems. What is it? A healthy man can have 1,000 different problems, but someone who is unhealthy, they only have one problem. Someone who is sick and unhealthy and on their deathbed, they only got one problem. And it's that they need to be healthier and that they should have focused on their health. And so I think that for me, outside of number one, physically challenging myself every week, it's number two is having that purpose, having the every single day, what is the thing that's actually driving me to continuously get up every morning at 5, 6 a.m. and push forward and keep putting in the work and keep showing up and keep contributing to the work of my life. Because that is like, it's one thing that my therapist talked to me about is that, like, dude, that's your thing. That is like your life's work is what we're doing with Kettlebell Transformation. And so the second big thing that drives me is just my purpose is to continue to create and build this so that it can help as many men as possible. That is my purpose. And I think part of that is who I have to become in the process to make that a reality. So the thing that I think gets lost in that a lot of times for guys is the thought process around who do you become in the process of going after a certain outcome. The thought process of, like, getting healthier, losing weight, building a business, impacting lives. Well, there's the outcome and there's, like, trying to do the work to create the outcome. But then there's, like, who do you become in the process of achieving that individual outcome? And I think that to me is the biggest benefit to me, because our purpose is to help as many people as possible, help as many men as possible inside of this this vehicle that we've created at Kettlebell Transformation. But the bigger thing to me is like, as I'm driving towards that purpose is who I become along the path, right? It's how I change, how I evolve, how it makes me a better man, and how I have to become better every single day and every single month in order to make those things a reality, or in order to play my part in giving us a chance at making those things a reality. And I think that there's a lot of different there's a lot of different phases of getting in shape, as there's a lot of different phases of business where, Sean and I will do a podcast on this at some point, I'm sure, where, Sean and I started, it was just me and Sean. It was just us. And now we've got just over 20 people who work with us now at Kettlebell Transformation. So that's, there's a lot of different milestones, a lot of different phases to growing a business as there are to getting in shape. And I think the change that I'm having to go through at every different stage that we have to go through is pretty cool. And I think that it is enabling me to live a better life because it's making me a better human. And so I think my purpose is enabling that. So that's number 2, right? Number 1 is physically challenging myself. Number 2 is truly having a purpose that I believe is worthwhile for me to spend 99% of my mental energy and focus and emotions on. Because I think when you have that, you'll just continue to show up. You will continue to show up and do the work, even though you're getting kicked in the nuts, 50% of the time, which anyone who owns a business knows how that goes. And then number three is community. I think I explain this to guys whenever I talk to guys about kettlebell transformation, that the secret weapon to our guys in KT, whether they realize it or not, is the community of men that we have inside of KT. And because what happens is that you end up joining a community of men who are all like-minded, who are all following a similar roadmap, who are all trying to achieve similar outcomes. And what ends up happening is that every single day you have that entire community notifying you that they are showing up and doing the work that you're supposed to be doing. And you have a community of men who all have your back, and who all, if you're willing to lean into that and you're willing to be vulnerable enough to put yourself out there in that community, what will happen is you're going to have a community of guys who all have your back and who all give you a lot of encouragement and a lot of, I think, just give you this sense of support and this sense of like not being all alone on an island. And that gives you this like feeling of like, all right, like I'm in it now. And I'm a part of a proven system, or I'm a part of a community of guys who are all following the same thing that I'm going to follow, who believe the same things as me, who believe that what we're doing is worth it. They believe the outcome is worth it. And I think finding your community was like one of the biggest things. That was one of the hardest parts about when we decided to shut down Chicago Primal Gym and you'll start KT, was like we shut down that community. And I think that was one of the hardest things for us to swallow. It was obviously one of the hardest things for the clients back then to be able to deal with at that time, was shutting down a community that you loved and that was a part of your daily life. And one of our biggest fears was, are we going to be able to recreate that with KT? And I think that what we found is that, as long as you're willing to put yourself out there, what you believe in, what is important to you, and the negotiables and non-negotiables in your life, you will continue to find guys, you will continue to find people who will join, who believe what you believe. And it is without a doubt one of the biggest joys of my life, one of the biggest things that continues to make it easy for me to continue to show up, try to create my life's work, just continue to show up, try to be a better human on a daily basis, try to evolve and try to grow and try to get better, is because I know we have a community of guys who are all trying to do the same thing. They're all trying to do that. Our men at KT are all trying to become better human beings. They are all trying to evolve. They are all trying to push themselves to be better than they were yesterday. And I think if you've ever tried to do stuff on your own versus being a part of a bigger community where you're like, I'm a part of something that's bigger than just me, you realize how much easier it is when you have the support and the encouragement and the consistent, I think, overall collection of belief of guys who are just like you. It becomes way easier for you to show up and continue to move forward and continue to want to get better and to continue to want to grow, because you're not the only one trying to do it. It's not time wasted because you've got so many people around you who are doing the same thing. And I think for me personally, having that community and having the guys who are inside of KT and just hearing their stories and having their encouragement, having guys reach out to us and continue to push us to get better and push us to grow, man, it is priceless. It is something that I cherish every day. I'm so grateful for it. And so there are many things that I could add to this list, but I think just, stream of consciousness today, which is a lot of these podcasts, is just stream of consciousness stuff that is on our mind, is on our heart on the day of. Those are 3 of the biggest things that I think, if I were to look at my days those are the three of the biggest things that continue to drive me forward, which is this physical routine, this physical habit of challenging myself, pushing my body to get better, and how that impacts me physically and how it impacts me mentally and emotionally. It's having a purpose, truly having something that is driving me every single day, driving me to get better, driving me to become I got to level up. I have to grow. I have to become better in order to be able to continue to drive that purpose home, to be able to continue to, for me, it's growing Kettlebell Transformation. It's helping more guys. I have to continue to get better so that we can continue to expand and get our message out there. And I think that can happen in any area of your life. I think that dads probably feel that way too. Dads probably feel like I would assume that being a father, you have to feel like you evolve to become a better dad over time. And you learn at every stage, you'll learn and you'll become better for it. And I think that it doesn't necessarily matter which area of life you're looking at. You just have to have a purpose that's driving you. And then number 3 is having people around you, having a community, not feeling like you're on an island on your own, but surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals who believe what you believe, who want to continue to get better like you want to get better, and who will continue to push themselves and continue to push you, because I can promise you that you will always get better when other people are pushing you rather than you feeling like you're going to try to do it on your own. So with that being said, a little bit longer podcast today. I probably ranted a little bit of a Grant rant. But I hope you got something out of that. If you did, awesome. If you didn't, feel foul. But if you did, you can find us more at Kettlebell Grant on Instagram, at Kettlebell Sean. You can obviously look at our website, kettlebelltransformation.co. We're all over the place. With that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing rest of the week whenever you listen to this. And I'll see you guys in the next pod.